Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is incredible.
Well, thank you for being here. I understand it was a little bit complicated to come from London.
Sorry?
I understand it was a little bit
Oh,
complicated.
yeah. We almost didn't get here. Our airplane got canceled yesterday at 7:30 in the evening. We are all in London to fly over. The 6 authors in the airplane, and they canceled the flight. So we almost didn't make it. Because I said, we were flying to Lillelund. Is it Lillelund? Okay. We're flying there, but it's like, if it was Copenhagen, then maybe find another airplane. But it was like 7:30 in the evening to Lillelund. But then they did. So we got here at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yay!
So that's very impressive.
Rock and roll!
Well, thank you for being here. And you were here last in 2018?
2018, yeah.
And just for the odd chance that maybe 5 or 10 people weren't here in 2018,
yeah.
start by telling us a little bit how you got started as a writer, because you've been
as a writer. Yeah, that story is going. It was a dream. I never wanted to write in my life. I told this story so many times. Every author I know always wanted to write. Most authors I've ever met, they wanted to write since they were kids. You know, in school, they created their own stories. They used to read a lot. That was not me. I never read very much. I never wanted to write. And then one day I had a dream. In 2008, I think, 2008, I had a dream, which was weird because, one, I remember my dreams, which I never do. So I remember the dream. Two, it was a story, but it was a story that had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Right? My dreams are never like this. My dreams are just absolutely crazy. And I woke up and I thought it was quite an interesting story. And I told my girlfriend at the time of the story. And she was like, that's very, very good. You should write it. I was like, okay. And I did, right? That's the thing. No, then I sat down and I started writing. But here's the deal. That story was not a crime story at all. It was a complete different story. Very, very different story. And as I was writing, I was like, okay, I never wanted to write a book. But if I'm going to write a book, because of my background as a criminal psychologist, I used to be a criminal behavior psychologist in America. So, and I've seen a lot of crime. I've seen a lot of horrible crime scenes. So like, if I'm going to write a story, I can probably think of a better crime story than this crazy story in my dream, right? So I decided to do one chapter on this crazy dream story, and one chapter on a crime story. And I did the first chapter of The Crucifix Killer. But that's the thing, I did not have a story. I just said, what will be a good opening chapter for a crime story? That's it. All I wanted to do is write one chapter. I didn't have the story in my head. I didn't know what the crucifix would be. I was just like, so I came up with the first chapter of The Crucifix Killer and gave it to my girlfriend, gave both stories, right? And she was like, the crime one is better. I was like, yeah, of course. Kill somebody straight away. So and then I carry on writing, and here I am, 12 years later. But okay, now here's the funny thing, right? This dream that I had, I tell this story to everyone. And I remember when I told my girlfriend, she said, it's a good story, you should write it. But now I told the story about the dream to my editors in the publishing house. And I already had 5 different editors. I've been in England. I'm with the same publishing house, Simon & Schuster. I've been with them for 14 years. In 14 years, I have 5 different editors. I told them the story. I was touring Germany last year, and it was me, the editor from the German publishing house, and the actor that was doing it. And I told them the story of the dream. And everyone says, you have to write the story, right? Now I'm getting opinions from people in the business, not my girlfriend. This is editors from publishing houses going, Chris, you need to write the story. So my next book, I think, is going to be about the dream. I will finally write this dream that I came up with like 14 years ago, because everyone keeps on saying, you have to write the story. So apparently, when I tell it, so it's supposed to be a decent story, so I might write the story. I'm going to call the book The Dream. But yeah.
But here's the thing, when you write your books, you're actually one of the very few writers to know what you're talking about. Because you've been a psychologist yourself.
Look, this is not only my profession. I mean, how many times a day when you're working do you say this, what the hell am I doing? Seriously, think about it. I do it all the time. It's like I say, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so what the hell am I doing? And I was talking to people, and even doctors say that. They say, I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't. I was asked this on the first time they were here on the stage. I don't prepare my stories. It's like I can't play chess, for example, because I can't think 2 moves ahead. There's 1 move only, and that's it, right? So when I write, I do 1 chapter, and then I really go, okay, now, because of my background, I go, okay, what can I do? What's going to be the next step if this happened in the story? And that's how I write. I don't prepare my story. And then when people say, like, on the previous interview, they say, your plots are very well thought of. I was like, no, they're not. I was like, they're definitely not well thought of. They just stuck into each other. And then at the end, it works. I was like, oh, hey, it works. But this is how I write. Every writer writes differently. Right? There is no right way to write a book or wrong way to write a book. You find what you're comfortable and you do it. I know some writers that have notes and notes and notes and notes and notes. Like, they have more notes than they have pages in the book. I know some writers that just have like 1 little line for each chapter, you know. I have nothing. Nothing. I just start writing. To me, it's like a snowball. I have to start a little bit, and then it gets to speed, and it just carries on going, and then in the end I have a book. So that's how I write, but no, so I don't plan. I'm pretty bad at this. So when you say that, they're all well thought of, everything, not for me. And I don't know what I'm doing, seriously.
But these terrible killers that Hunter meets in the books, there's now 10 books out in Danish, I think.
Sorry, hold on, the thing is coming out of my... Okay, go.
These terrible killers that Hunter encounters in the books. Have you met them sort of through your work?
Well, they're all based on. It's hard for me not to, because I said when I started with criminal psychology, I was right at the beginning of the. I said that before. Was right at the beginning of the profession. So at that time, nobody knew how criminal psychology would work. So they were taking us, the criminal psychologists, to the crime scenes in situ, which means the victims were still there. So we saw real crime scenes with everything, right? So I've seen everything, because I was a criminal psychologist in America. So let me explain this to you, right? About crime. This thing keeps coming off. About crime. So, okay. So you have crime, then you have violent crime, then you have ultra-violent crime, then you have 50 feet of shit, and then you have America, right there, right? America is in a different position when it comes to violent crime, right? They are horrible, horrible, horrible. And I worked in Detroit, which is one of the most violent cities in America. So I saw everything you can imagine. Dismemberment, decapitation, people cut in half this way, people cut in half this way, people burned alive, people tortured, you know, like I said, my second crime scene, I was 20 years old. And I went to a crime scene where they put a baby in the microwave and turned the microwave on. So they killed a baby in the microwave. So for me, when I'm writing anything, it's very difficult for me to come up with a crime scene that my memory doesn't bring some kind of image back to me, right? So I've met, and the funny thing is that a lot of the criminals that I meet, like the killers, the intelligent killers that you see in books, they don't exist, right? They only exist in books and in films, right? Killers are pretty dumb people. They are just, and they don't give a damn, right? It's like I said, Europe is a little bit different. People respect life here a lot more. Not in America. I've been to a crime scene that this guy, he had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend had a baby, and the baby was crying. And this is how nature works. I don't know if you know this, but the sound of a baby crying is considered the most irritating sound to a human ear. And that's nature, because you can't disregard. So when a baby cries, you have to go do something because it's too annoying, right? That's how nature works. So the girlfriend couldn't stop the baby from crying. The guy got annoyed. He got the baby and threw the baby out the window, right, on the 10th floor, right? The girlfriend got crazy. He grabbed the girlfriend, threw the girlfriend out the window, right? So he killed his girlfriend and the baby. When the police knocked the door, he was sitting down, watching a basketball game, eating cornflakes. Like, he didn't care. It's like, so this is the kind of people you see. You find these people in America, Russia is pretty bad as well. Germany is, but it's incredible, right? So they don't care. They're the parts of the world that life is not worth anything. They will kill you for $1, right? The one thing I always said, the difference I learned when I came from criminal psychology to writing books is that the difference between fiction and reality is that fiction has to make sense, but reality does not. Meaning, when I write a book about fiction, I have to explain, or I have to give a good explanation why the killer is killing. So it has to be a psychological explanation. But the reader has to go, oh, okay, I don't agree with the killing, but I understand why this person became crazy and why this person, right? But real life is not like that. People will kill you for a bottle of Budweiser. They'll kill you for $2. They don't care, right? So it's pretty shocking, the kind of people you are there. So in my books, I use a lot of the crimes that I've seen, but I make the killer a little bit more intelligent because it's. But yeah, so I've met a few crazy people. Yes.
Yeah, well, I can see the problem in writing a novel about someone killing someone just because they're rather annoying. But I'm sure that's pretty much reality a lot of times. But
yeah.
But here and also in this book, it has to be a little more interesting than that. You also have an interesting killer here.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the devil? He's asked.
Yeah, it's just because the crime is so heinous. But the story of this book, like I said before, it was a difficult book for me to write. All right, simply because of the state I was. So I lost my partner in the end of 2019 in a very horrible way. So I was really in a bad place mentally. My mental health was going crazy. And I was supposed to take 6 months to go work on my mental health. But then the lockdown happened, right? So exactly 6 months after my partner lost her life, the lockdown happened. So I was locked inside the house. So I was already in a bad position because I was psychologically alone because I lost my partner. But I still had my friends. My friends were helping me out get through. Then the lockdown happened, and all of a sudden, no friends, no going out, no. So I went from being psychologically alone to being physically alone, completely alone, inside a new house I had just moved. So my head was very, very dark. When I started writing the book, like any artist, a lot of what's going on with us gets transposed into what we do. Painters do that, musicians do that, you know, the best songs are written when people are like really in pain. So there's a lot of my own pain in this book. There's a lot of my own darkness in this book. And I said that before as well. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in Denmark is the only place. There's a dedication that I did for Genesis, for this book, that I dedicate this book to people who struggle with mental health issues like I do. And I explain that it's a fight that we have to fight every day, and it's a fight, again, it's the hardest fight we can fight because it's a fight against our own minds. We're fighting ourselves. And we're fighting a darkness that no one else can see, only we can see, right? So I dedicate the book to people who struggle with that, and I have received so many messages about the dedication. I get 4 or 5 in Poland, 16-year-old girls, right, that they said that they were about to kill themselves, and they didn't because they read the dedication on the book. That's 16-year-olds. Like, why is a 16-year-old wanting to kill herself? But unfortunately, in Denmark, it's the only country that the dedication is not in the book. So I don't know why, but it's not there. So it's a very dark book because the time I was writing was a very dark time. The lockdown was a very difficult time for everyone. If you didn't get affected mentally, you got affected on your way of life because your way of life changed. You couldn't go out, you couldn't go see friends, you couldn't go for a drink, you couldn't go to the cinema, you couldn't go to the park, you couldn't have a barbecue, you couldn't do anything. So everybody got affected in some way, bad way, by the lockdown. So the whole book was written during the lockdown. So that's why it's very, very dark. But the next one is not. I hope so.
How much of you is in Hunter?
Now a lot more than before. When I started, Hunter was just a character. Like I said, when I wrote The Crucifix Killer, I didn't have a story. I wrote the first chapter because I wanted to do a crime story. So then I created a detective. So on the first book, I think I told you this before, it was not even supposed to be a series. It was supposed to be only one book. So the original story of The Crucifix Killer, Hunter dies in the end. He dies, I swear to God. I kill him in the end of the first book. And then my agent was like, I like your story, but your ending doesn't work. I was like, why not? He goes, because your detective dies. It's like, how does that work? So I had to change everything. But now, the more, I never expected to have 12 books with Hunter. So the more it carries on, the more I start putting myself into Hunter. So there are always a lot of things. Hunter has insomnia because I have insomnia. Hunter likes whiskey because I like whiskey. Hunter likes rock music because I like rock music. He's a loner, I'm a loner. So there's a lot of similarities, but now it's getting more and more. Yeah, there's a lot of things that, especially in this book, there's a lot of thoughts that comes through Hunter and through some of the other characters in the book. But Hunter's getting more and more like me, yeah.
How much work then do you use to picture yourself the antagonist and how his mind works? Now you are a psychologist. Here we have a serial killer with putting poems inside people. I don't want to get too much into that, but it's a special way of killing people and circumstances and everything. How much effort do you put into that, trying to imagine why would people do this? How does it look?
The killers are easy. I think the killers are the easiest people to imagine. But on this book, specifically on this book, I wanted to exaggerate the kills, because I wanted it to be a shocking thing. To show, I can't review if you haven't read the book, but to show what happens at the end, right? How much one act that happened here can completely change something that happened all the way over there, right? I wanted to show what's, in English is called the butterfly effect. It's like, so you do something and you ripples and ripples and ripples and ripples and ripples. So something happened here, it can completely affect the person that's all the way over there. So I wanted to show that. So I exaggerated the kills. But I don't do that much research into the murders. It's just like, seriously, with me, with this mind, it's very, very easy for me to come up with crazy stuff. Yeah. So.
But still, you must have some idea why is this going on. I mean, you don't just start with the first murder and then figure out the motive later, or how is that?
It depends. Every book is different. Like I said, for me, I just need a little bit to start moving. So there's some books that I said that on the first one, all I had was the method of killing. So the book 3, The Night Stalker, which is one a lot of people here say that's my favorite because it's the most violent. I find it funny, but yeah, I had nothing, but I came up with this idea, say, oh, what if a killer put something inside the victim and then sewed the thing in and leave it there, right? So that was the idea. I did not have a story. I didn't know. I just had an idea for a crazy kill. I was like, and that's how it started. The idea for the second book, it was the motive why the killer was killing. I had the idea, what if a killer kills... if he kills somebody with their fear, it's like he finds out what you are scared of, and he kills you that way. So if you're scared of spiders, he kills you with spiders. If you're scared of heights, he kills you with like throwing you over the top of the building. So that was the idea. So it depends. Each book is different. Each book for me, I just get one thing and go, okay. Sometimes it's easy because I just have to get the ball rolling. So I just need one little idea and I make it run. So, yeah.
And I think we should probably end very soon, but you're doing another book now. You're
I
working
am.
on another.
Yeah, I am.
Is that a light-minded serial killer? How does it work?
Yeah. The funny thing is that I wanted to do something not as dark as Genesis. And I said that before because I was doing an interview with Zoom just at the end of the lockdown, just before the book came out. And I said, look, next book is very dark. And then people in the interview say, all your books are dark. I was like, no, wait. and then this book came out, they go, yeah, it's dark. But I was saying to people, like, okay, the next book, because this was very dark, it was very difficult for me to write as well. I was like, the next one is not going to be so dark. and it's based on real facts, right? So I was telling the person on my agency about the story, right? I was like, no, it's not as dark as Jen. And I was telling her, and then she was like, that's fucking dark. And I was like, really? And she was like, Jesus Christ, the ending, she said, the ending is really dark. And I was like, damn. So every book I do is dark. But I'm trying not to do as dark as Genesis or this one, but yeah. So, but it's being written and it's going to be out in 2024. And as I said before, it's going to be called Dinner with Jeffrey Dahmer. It's a recipe book. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dark or light, dinner or no dinner, we're looking forward to the book.
Thank you
very much for coming.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.